Look, I just wanted to make sure you knew what you were about to get yourself into, alright? Hello then, my fellow Revenant Hunters. It's time for Code Vein 2. I've been giving it a good old play so that I could tell you today, how good is it? Is it worth your time? Is it a worthy sequel? And even if you've never played the first, is it a solidly fun Souls-like? And the answer to that question is yes, but, which I think is probably something you were kind of expecting. Let me get the easy thing out the way. If you really enjoyed Code Vein 1, if you liked what Code Vein was doing, if you liked the style, the world, anything about it really, and you want in any way more, yeah, Code Vein 2 is that. In fact, I'd say it's maybe too much that. Like, to say there is a 6-year gap between it very much feels Code Vein 1, but more. And that's not necessarily a bad thing at all, but it's certainly not, I would say, pushing any insane boundaries, though the scale of everything is massively increased, and the biggest thing is it feels a lot smoother to play. There's a lot of animation lock, but once you kind of get a feel for it and work to play around it, like in any given Souls-like experience, everything clicks and you're on it. There's a lot of systems, but things happen when you want them to happen, and movement is crisp, and the actual fights are really satisfying back and forth. But I don't want to get too lost into that right now. The bottom line is, Code Vein 2 is a fun experience. It's anime Souls. It has that going for it. It's unlike anything else in the Souls-like genre, and it feels a worthy entry into that space. And you can definitely see that there is a healthy amount of influence from Elden Ring. You have a big open city to explore with a lot of stuff to find basically everywhere, random mini-bosses around the place, you've got a vehicle to get around in which acts as your torrent, and generally you will just feel very instantly at home with the general flow and progression and exploration if you've been up on your Soulsy experiences over the last 5 years. And that's really not a bad thing. And if you're wondering if you need to have intimate Code Vein 1 experience to get on with this, well, you really don't. I dabbled in Code Vein 1. I never finished it. I gave it a good go, I enjoyed it, but it never quite convinced me to actually go the distance. Whereas this so far has been much more gripped. Now, the story is the kind of anime-esque shonen-y affair you would expect. Very over the top, instantly forming lifelong bonds with someone you met 5 minutes ago, big kind of emotional piano blaring in the background as you reveal tragic backstories. It's all very kind of endearingly cheesy, and you are interested in the world, you do end up caring, even if while you're caring you do have a little bit of a smile on your face, and it's not a smile the game kind of wanted you to have there. It's completely that kind of thing, and it works for most people. In any case, though, the actual character creator, making your own hunter, is really solid. There's a lot going on, a lot you can edit, a lot you can change, and for those of you that might be worried that there's any kind of real censoring compared to the first game, or if things have been tamed back, I mean, this is the merchant in the shop. I just don't think that's the case. You know, this is kind of like medium by the level of a lot of the characters you will meet. In any case then, moving on, the one thing if you've not played the first Code Vein, and even if you haven't, it's been a while, that you'll instantly be greeted with is so many systems. Now, of course, it's normal for a game to have a lot going on, especially in RPG, especially a Souls-like, lots of aspects to your build, lots of factors to tweak and consider, and Code Vein really does have that in spades, to the point it can be kind of overwhelming to begin with, and not in a great way. There's a lot of terminology, a lot of equipment slots, a lot of ways you can interact with everything. So you have your weapon choice, of course, and you have a lot of weapons to choose from. We'll go over that. You will unlock a second weapon slot. I'm on an earlier save here, so nothing is too spoilery, of course. Then you've got all your items to min-max and choose from, weapon buffs, defensive buffs, and so on and so forth. Then you've got your offensive option, which is various different ways to play. Like, this is a nice long-range snipe bow, and then this is a huge close-range axe, and they each have different effects beyond that too. Then you have your defensive option, which is various different types of shields, from straight-up parrying to just full-on blocking to, I don't know, how about literally becoming Medusa? Yeah? Then you've even got forgoing all of that and getting your Bloodhound step on. There's a lot of playstyles just in there. Then you've got your blood code, which decides your general stat spread. You unlock these through meeting various characters, some other ways too. They will also give you different active effects depending on how you use them, so working this as to your playstyle into your build. You've then got your jail, which is your big steel Ikor from enemies, so I'm currently rocking the wolf one that may be familiar to you, but they are all just so cool, and these all come with different stats and effects as well, and you got to choose the best one that you actually want to use here. Of course, the Reaper's Scythe is obviously badass as well. You can use this for damage, or you can just use it for defensiveness. Its main purpose is to restore your Ikor, which is that thing I have 20 of here, and you spend that to use the equivalent of Ashes of War, which is nice. You also spend it on the aforementioned bow and such, as well as the defensive options that you've got on, so managing it and restoring it is a huge deal. Then you've got these 4 booster slots, which you can equip stuff. Some of them just straight up give you stats, so you can tune that way, but other ones give you actual straight up effects. Then you've got actually leveling up as well, just generally. And if you're thinking, okay, that is a lot to think about, a lot of categories to try and fit together, but that's not that crazy, right? Well, let's continue, shall we? You can then acquire more boosters via defeating the right amount of certain enemies and getting certain drops to then get them extracted and equipped onto your build. So you might want a very specific one, like you're fighting a boss that does curse, so you go out and hunt these guys to get a curse resistance going up. Then you can transform your defensive forma, like one of these, and the ways that you can transform it is into giving it a special affinity at helping you with certain ailments or elements, etc. You can also do that by transforming your weapons to attune it to certain ailments or weapons. So, kind of like you do in Elden Ring when you put the Ash of War on and you lean it towards certain stats or an element, and so on and so forth. So you've got all that to think about as well. But of course, it doesn't end there. You've also got your kind of standard upgrading the weapons, but you can also enhance your forma, which is that bow and that slot. You can enhance your jail, which ties to how strong your partner is, as well as your standard upgrade weapons with your standard stones that you find around the place. The point is, there is a lot going on, and how it all interconnects and actually works. Oh, and of course you've got items into this, so you can have food, so you can get food buffs going, so you make sure you find food items all over the world. You just got a lot happening, right? The stat page is quite the place, and there is going to be a lot of information curve. But the upside is when you do chew through the learning curve of how all of this pieces together, you really do have a lot of build depth. From across the weapon variety, of which there is some really neat ones. You've got standard big sword, small sword, 2 swords, but then you also have 2 swords, but they float and you just kind of telekinetically control them, which is really nice. A straight up rifle, big hammer. There is a lot of really interesting weapons and a lot of interesting takes on those weapons with various ailments, elements, etc. And the equivalent of Ashes of War, the former on them, are really satisfying and a lot of fun. And because you can kind of customize what's actually available on them, that plays into the Ikor system, which is essentially your mana, for want of a better word. You have an amount, every one you use costs an amount, and you can regen it in combat via various ways, like your jail, which is the super cool, like, scythe or scorpion tail or double-headed wolf that lashes out and steals Ikor from the opponent to fuel then your special abilities again. There really is a nice flow to that, and of course you can focus on on, let's say, the magic end, or the melee end, or a hybrid, depending on your main core blood code that you set up and how that's kind of directing your character. The blood codes are what decide your stat spread. They are what decide the kind of playstyle, whereas generically leveling up just kind of generically makes you stronger, but you're not going to be assigning points into a stat, for example. And of course, it would be hard to talk about Code Vein without talking about, well, the partner system. Meeting various characters and absorbing them into your heart to then summon them as a partner to fight with you. You can either have them mount as to what amounts to a permanent spirit summon, though nowhere near as powerful. They are helpful, but the boss 90% of the time is going to ignore that they're there, or you can leave them absorbed and gain buffs for doing so. Both have their merits, both feel balanced, and neither is a crutch compared to the other, I can assure you at that. It really does depend on your build and your playstyle and what you're actually going for, or even just what you think is most fun. And when it comes to the kind of difficulty curve, the scale of it, it is kinda brutal. I think a lot of people will have an initial steep kind of smackdown experience. There is a boss that you can face pretty early on that technically is optional for a while that might really kind of tell you, okay, this is where I gotta be to properly enjoy Code Vein 2, even with your partner out fighting with you, as I say. In any case, you will find yourself then a pleasant bit of friction if you are someone that really wants to get a hold of things and tune both your personal skill and your build with the many levers available to make fights easier. I've gone from getting my ass kicked by the same boss over and over and over and over and over again to effortlessly destroying it in about 30 seconds without actually doing anything other than changing my build, my playstyle, not grinding haze to level up, etc., and that's really cool when you can actually make that happen. That said, I think the actual world itself is certainly less kind of rich or obviously detailed in the sense of where you should go or what's a point of interest, or, I mean, look, it feels bad to compare it to the kind of world design of something like Elden Ring, but it's hard also not to, and I do think it falls a little bit short in that regard. There is a lot around, but it feels a little bit almost stuffy, I want to say. Dense, but not with a lot of things that you actually care about being there, or at least that's just my experience so far. That said though, I've had a more enjoyable time than not just kind of wandering around killing stuff and finding things, so it's by no means bad. The bottom line here is it's a really solid experience. It's over the top, it's incredibly anime, which is the point. It has a fun setting, it has a fun, if again cheesy story, it has fun, if again really cheesy characters, but again they are really fun, and it's just this kind of over the top, brutal, Souls-like, where you get to have a lot of deep customization, have some really intense encounters, and explore this kind of cluster of a world, traveling back in time and changing the past, which then does actually change the present, which is something I really appreciate in games. This might be giving away my age, but a game called Dark Chronicle or Dark Cloud 2, where you'd go in the past and change things about a village, and then in the future you'd see how that village flourished based on what you did, it kind of gives me those vibes, and it's really, really satisfying to actually have your actions felt in that way, and I really can get behind it. I don't really like giving things numeric scores, but it would be a kind of solid 7.5, 8 out of 10 for a Souls-like. It is definitely carving out its own little pocket, but you can always definitely see a lot of, let's call it, inspiration from a lot of the games that have happened over the last 5 years. And ultimately, it's one of those games where you already know, probably going into this, if you're going to like it or not. And there's maybe a couple particulars you want to check up on. But you know if you're going to essentially enjoy playing through a Souls-like that treats you as the protagonist of a shonen anime. That's essentially what you're doing, and yeah, it is. It's fun. It's like the junk food of competent Souls-likes that has a lot to offer in terms of just basic enjoyment, and there's nothing wrong with that. It knows what it is, and it's really good at what it is. And unlike the first game, the actual smoothness of the combat is a much better, and coupled with a lot of levers to pull for builds, as I said, does result in some really engaging progression and encounters. A lot of the bosses have been really enjoyable puzzles to figure out. The pace of the game is very quick. Sometimes it feels like it's too quick, but you do get used to it, and there is a lot of really nice, interesting encounters waiting for you. And it really is one of those games that the more you put into it, the more you kind of get out of it. It's worth kind of turning over every stone in each dungeon, as you will miss a lot of potential tools to help you get through the boss at the end. And ultimately, I'd just describe every aspect of this as solid. The most real negatives that I can give it, outside of, non-objective stuffs like how you might react to the story or the characters, is really that sometimes the animation lock really does feel excessive. There's a lot of times where you feel like you're really not allowed to kind of do what you want to do, but a lot of that comes from just not understanding initially the flow of the game, and once you do, it becomes the smooth experience that I talked about earlier. And past that, there are a fair few bosses that I think have telegraphs that aren't really telegraphy or not. It's really hard to quantify with a game like this, but I do feel there is, at least early on, going to be a particularly large amount of bullshit going on as you experience some encounters, and a lot of the time it doesn't always seem obvious why that's happening, and there's a little bit of lack of feedback of what's going on sometimes in a fight, but not often enough that I think it's a real turn-off to the whole thing, just something to be aware of. The polish is there in spades compared to Code Vein 1, but it's still not fully there, if that makes sense. In any case, though, not to go around in circles or waste your time, ultimately, if you like Souls-likes, this is one of the best, and you will like it. Unless you really just don't like the anime vibes, then you're going to have a good time. If I had to list my top 5 Souls-likes of all time, Code Vein 2 would be on it. Lies of P would still be top of the list comfortably, but Code Vein 2 would be on it. And given how many Souls-likes there are, and that I've played damn near all of them, I think that is a pretty high compliment to give. In any case, then, let me know what you're thinking, let me know if you're planning on getting it, but for now, if you've enjoyed this, look forward to all of our guide content coming, subscribe and hit the bell for more, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice, to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.